Yes, Hellcat is my legal middle name. And like many good stories start, I was at a bar. It was in 2010. I was down in Dallas, Texas, just having a good time with some friends, dancing the night away. It was that evening that I learned you can change your name on Facebook to whatever you want. I saw my friends doing it, and I succumbed to the peer pressure. We were at a place called the Vixen Lounge. I thought, Lorrie the Vixen, no, that's just silly. So I pulled up the thesaurus on my smartphone. I typed in the name Vixen, and the name Hellcat came up. And it means formidable woman, not to be messed with. It's also a World War II plane. And so I thought, yeah, Hellcat, I like it. So I changed it on Facebook that night, just as a joke. Now, around this same time, I was in pretty poor health. I was over 120 pounds heavier than what my doctor wanted me to be. I was smoking up to 2 packs of cigarettes per day. And at the age of 40, I was taking 9 pills a day related to being pre-diabetic, having high blood pressure, high cholesterol, high triglycerides, and gout. My doctor took me aside and he said, listen, if you don't make some changes, you're not going to see your kids grow up. At that time, my son was 8 and my daughter was 4. That got my attention. So I began to look around and wonder, what can I do to improve my health? And I noticed that many of my friends were runners. I thought, okay, running, how hard can that be? Now, mind you, I was not a runner in high school. But I signed me and the kids up for a 1-mile fun run at their school. I show up on race day, I've got on regular slip-on sneakers, regular sweatpants, regular bra, not an inch of spandex on this body. I get up to the start line, the gun goes off, and I begin to run. And I can run for 15 seconds. I thought I was gonna die. My shoes were falling off, my pants were falling down, everything was falling down, and I had to walk the rest of that 1-mile fun run. But I vowed in that moment that I was going to figure this out. I downloaded a Couch to 5K app, and over the next 8 weeks, it taught me how to run a little bit more each time. Pretty soon, I could run for 30 seconds, 40 seconds, 50 seconds. Before I knew it, I was running for an entire minute. Before I knew it, I could run an entire mile. On October 9th, 2011, I finally quit smoking. Since that time, I've completed 2 full marathons, 5 half marathons, 4 200-mile Ragnar relay races, and countless other races. It was in this moment that I was using Hellcat to help and inspire other people along their journey, that we all have an inner Hellcat. You just got to learn how to tap into it. Well, a few years in, Facebook shut down my account one day. I couldn't believe it. I've never even been in Facebook jail. I contacted Facebook and I said, why would you shut down my account? Don't do that to someone in my generation. This is how we stay socially connected at all times. Facebook said, well, ma'am, Hellcat is not your legal middle name. Well, I'm a lawyer, and under the law, you can change your name to whatever you want, as long as it's not intended to hinder or defraud creditors. You pay a filing fee, you file a petition, you publish it in a legal newspaper, you set it for hearing, and you show up at court. And I did all those things. I show up before the judge, and he says, you want to change your name to Hellcat? I said, yes, Your Honor, and I proceeded to tell him my entire story as I've shared with you here today. And he stops me. He says, that's different. Hands me the order, tells me to have a nice day. I get the heck out of there. I take a picture of the order and I send it to Facebook and I said, Facebook, it is now my legal middle name. I need you to put it back. Well, ma'am, this could take a few weeks. I have a court order. Now I imagine those Facebook workers were sitting around in their cubicles saying, we got a wackadoodle on line 3, let's get this taken care of today. And they did. And that is the story of how I'm legally known as the Hellcat. Now, I do not tell this story to impress, but impress the point that will become important as we talk about our stories of resilience in how we speak about them, how we think about them, and what we're going to do with them. Now, Maybe you've not ever had to legally change your name or even thought of it, but I bet you have found yourself in this situation. Either someone asks you or you ask someone else, "Hey, how's it going? How are you doing?" There are a few pat answers we use simply out of habit. One of those is this: "Hey, how's it going?" "Well, I can't complain. It wouldn't do any good anyway." Or how about this one? "Hey, how are you doing?" "Oh, better than I deserve." I have a colleague at work, and every time I ask him how he's doing, he says the same thing: "I'm living the dream." I actually kind of like that one. So you see, how we speak about our resilience, it matters. There's one phrase that I have used mindlessly, without intention, without even thinking, when someone asks me how I'm doing. "Oh, I'm just faking it till I make it." I've even used this phrase to give myself a little internal pep talk. Just fake it till you make it, sister. What I want to offer you today is that seemingly simple phrase is the number one killer of confidence and ultimately hope, because it dismisses and diminishes our stories of resilience. Why? Well, first of all, it's not true. Unless there's a bunch of cloned versions of yourself walking around, you are not faking anything. You are facing it. You are showing up. You are doing it. Are you showing up perfectly? No, because you're human. You don't need to show up perfectly to be genuine. You are genuine in your actions because you are doing them. Pay attention to how you speak about your stories of resilience, those moments where you have faced adversity and you got to the other side. It matters. It not only matters how you speak about your stories of resilience, but how you think about them. Social psychologist Dr. Amy Cuddy presented a TED Talk in June of 2012. Her theory was that our body language can shape who we are. She created a storm all over the world of people posing as Wonder Woman in their bedrooms, offices, and bathroom stalls. I want to build upon Dr. Cuddy's premise today. Yes, power posing is effective. Power thinking, even more so. You see, our thoughts alone generate feelings and emotions in our body that drive our actions to do or not do something, to continue forward or to quit. What I want to encourage you today is to understand that you have more power within your mind, within your memories, within all of your stories of resilience than you may be limited to as posing as Wonder Woman in a bathroom stall. Remember those stories of resilience where you got on the other side. It's important. It's important how we speak about them, how we think about them, and what we do with our stories of resilience. Now, in observations of myself and others, there seem to be three ways in which we respond to our stories of resilience. On one hand, we say, "Oh, it wasn't that big a deal. I didn't die. I'm over it. It's fine." We dismiss it. At the other end of that spectrum, we could engage in blame with a victim mentality of, "Can you believe this happened to me? Can you believe they did this?" We engage in despair. Instead of dismissing your resilience or engaging in despair, I encourage you today to find that sweet spot of ownership somewhere in the middle where you say, "Yeah, I did that. I wonder what else I can do." We all have stories of resilience. Some of them are much more serious than others. Some of them are mild annoyances. Others are moments we could have never, ever even prepared ourselves for. One of my stories of resilience is the Hellcat story that I told you earlier. In that moment when Facebook shut down my account, I could have responded with, "Okay, whatever. It's fine, Facebook. It was just a joke." At the other end of that spectrum, I could have ranted and raved on Facebook about how horrible they've treated me and just the injustice of it all. But instead, I think I found that sweet spot of ownership somewhere in the middle where I said, "Wait a minute. This is important. I've been using this name for years and it's helping people." And I used it to drive myself forward. I have other stories of resilience. I grew up one of 11 children in Dallas, Texas, 6 girls, 5 boys. Yes, we were Catholic. I was the third oldest. And while coming from a large family had many, many blessings, it also had its challenges. especially in the 80s in Texas during the oil bust. My father had lost his job and was working any fast food restaurant he could find. My mother had to go back to work. And it was the duty and responsibilities and the expectation of the older siblings to step in and help raise those younger ones. And so I missed a lot of school, and we moved a lot. A result of that was I was, at best, a C student. But I knew I wanted something different. I knew I wanted to be a lawyer. I knew I wanted to get my education. Now, back then, you had to take the SAT and the ACT to get into college. And I took those tests, and I scored miserably on them. So here I was with poor test scores, a C student at best, and I began to tell myself this story that I must not be very smart. I don't think I'm smart enough for this. But I managed to be accepted to Midwestern State University in Wichita Falls, Texas, where I received an outstanding education. I received a degree in political science and English writing, graduating in the top 25% of my class. Then it was time for law school, and guess what? Another standardized test, the LSAT. Spoiler alert, I bombed that one too. I had to go through a 3-month grueling summer program that was 10 times harder than the 3 years of law school just to get in. I graduated from Oklahoma City University School of Law in the top 13% of my class and on law review. You see, these standardized tests, they don't measure intelligence, they don't measure grit, and they sure as heck don't measure resilience. I think of these stories of mine, whether it's my education or learning to run or quitting smoking or any of those things, and I remember those thoughts in that moment going, I can't do this. I don't know how I'm going to make it through this. And especially more recently in the death of my father in 2018, our father, our rock. He died from complications from diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. In those moments, the grief was overwhelming to all of us, and I thought, I don't know how I make it through this. But I remember those other stories of resilience, and I made it through. 2 weeks ago today, I presented this talk to a focus group of friends of mine to get some feedback to make this the best talk it could be. And I showed them this stone, and I said, I look at my stories of resilience as a stone that builds one upon the other, upon the next. And at the end of that event, I put the stone in my pocket, and I got in my car to drive home. And a few miles from my house, another car plowed through a stop sign, going every bit of 50 miles an hour, hit my car, spun me 180 degrees, and flipped me over on the side. I was trapped in that car through my seatbelt for what seemed like an eternity until the firefighters were able to pull me out through the sunroof to safety. The firefighter found that stone away from the wreckage, handed it to my husband, and said, I think this belongs to your wife. You see, for 14 days, I've had to practice what I preach about resilience. In these moments, the last 14 days where I've said, I don't think I can do this. This is too hard. I don't know if I'll be able to drive again. I remembered that young girl who thought she was dumb and not smart enough for college. I remembered that young woman who thought she would never be able to quit smoking. I remembered that runner who thought she would never be able to run for 15 seconds. And I remembered that daughter who thought the grief from the loss of her father would consume her. I got through those. I'll get through this too. And that's what I want you to take away today, is to think about your stories of resilience. Pay attention to how you talk about them and how you speak about them. They matter. Use them to build confidence and hope for yourself, one thought at a time, one stone at a time. And now, when I'm asked how I'm doing, I will never, ever again say, oh, I'm just faking it till I make it. I know what I'll say, and I'll actually mean it. Hey, Hellcat, how's it going? I'm living the dream. Thank you.